Hey folks, I wanted to take a moment to welcome Dixon's Fixins to the Talkin' About Food family. As a private chef, I know how much time you spend in grocery stores, and we've all heard the saying, time is money. That's why at Dixon's Fixins, they deliver all your beef, chicken, pork, and seafood needs at prices that fit the average family's budget. This family-owned business is committed to providing the best USDA choice and prime steak, open-range farms chicken, butcher-certified pork, and wild-caught seafood. All their products are all natural, hormone-free, with no byproducts or steroids. They treat every family they serve as if it were their own. So sit back, relax, and let Dixon's Fixins bring the best quality food right to your door, garage, or place of business, all while cutting your grocery bills in half. Check them out today at DixonsFixins.com. That's Dixon's Fixins, bringing quality food into your home and bringing your family back to the table. Hello, folks. This is Richard Florzak, private chef to the stars, and welcome back to Talking About Food. Remember, it's the only local food commentary show on the Grand Strand that talks specifically about restaurants, food trucks, festivals, and farmers markets. I love interviewing local chefs and local food business owners. And from time to time, I interview some of my celebrity friends, and whether celebrity or not, the topic will always be food because nothing brings people together like great food. I want this show to be a break from the daily grind and the rat race of the week, so forget about your job for an hour, put politics aside, and let's do what I like doing most, and that is talking about food. And I've got a great guy in the studio today. I say talking about food. He writes about food. His name is Paul Grimshaw, and he's a food writer for Grand Strand Magazine. If I remember correctly, I think he said for 20 years or so. Paul, welcome to Talking About Food.
Richard, thank you so much for having me.
Was I right about that? 20 years?
Ish. Yeah.
20-ish years writing about food.
The time flies by, as we well know.
Yeah. We were talking about that before we went on. We'll stay away from that topic. It gets depressing. Do you come from a food background?
Well, in fairness, I write about a lot of things,
right,
as you may have found out. But I end up doing a lot of restaurant reviews, and the first were assignments. And I figured, how hard could it be? You know, you go in and you eat a meal and you write about it. And we're not highly critical. I mean, we're not.
I was going to say, you say review. It's not necessarily.
It's not a standard review like you might read in a big city magazine or a big city newspaper. We're not going to make or break anybody's careers here. But if something was so bad that you just, in good conscience, you couldn't write about, we just wouldn't run the article.
Well, it's so funny because that was going to be one of my other questions. But before we go there, let me ask you this: how do you choose what restaurant you're going to comment on? We'll say.
Often it's the new kid on the block, but sometimes we will review a restaurant that's been around for a while, and maybe we reviewed it 5 years ago, and it's, they have a new chef or a lot of ownership changes or whatever. So we'll go back to it there. There's no formula, but more often than not, it's one of the new kids on the block.
Yeah. You said you've been writing for 20-ish years. How long have you been in the Grand Strand?
About 25 years.
25 years. I don't know if this has ever happened to you. I've only been here for 4-ish years. I'm very surprised at some of the places that I find that I really like that have been around for quite some time, and not everybody knows about them.
Oh, that happens all the time.
That's a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing that it finally happens.
Well, people who live in North Myrtle Beach rarely come to Murrells Inlet, and people who live in Murrells Inlet will rarely go to the north end of Myrtle Beach. They have this mentality that it's too far away, and it's like a solid 25 minutes. It's not like it's that far, but that's the way people are.
It's a geographical location thing.
And the other issue is that there are so many good or decent restaurants within
right where you are.
Right where you are. Why do you have to?
Yeah.
Unless you're a foodie or you get bored and you want to try something new. That's my issue. I'm always looking for something new.
Yeah, me too. Have you traveled much?
Yes.
Where have you been?
Well, I mean, internationally, Europe, a good part of Europe, and Australia, Tasmania, been to Alaska, never been to Hawaii, but yeah.
That sounds like you're quite
Central America,
quite a traveled person. So you've had food from all over the world, so you know what's what.
Yeah, and now all that food has come to the Grand Strand. There's more international food here than I would have ever imagined.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's Latin, a lot of it's from Latin countries, South America and Central America. But there are, so many Thai places and so many Asian cuisine restaurants. There's something for everybody.
Yeah. Really amazing to me that as small as it is, it has so much to offer. And just in the short period of time that I'm here, I've noticed some changes. Have you ever actually hated a place that you've been asked to comment on?
Luckily, no, I haven't. I've been very fortunate, and maybe I'm just too excited to eat at a new place or try new foods that I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. As I've found, and I'm sure you have too, that you can go to your favorite restaurant one time and then a month later go there and it's the worst meal you've ever had. The inconsistency is an issue that all restaurants try to avoid, of course, but it can happen, and it does happen. So, people, I'll recommend a restaurant for an out-of-towner or a visitor, and they'll say, we tried that last year and it was awful. And I'll say, well, try it again, because I've been 10 times and it's always been great. Yeah. But food and tastes are individual and subjective.
I've actually had this debate with chefs on the air. It is subjective.
Absolutely.
I have a policy that if somebody that I trust tells me about a place and I go there and I don't like it, I'll give it a second chance.
I think that's a great rule of thumb.
Yeah, and I owned and operated a restaurant for 9 years before I moved here. And just back on your topic about, you go to a restaurant one time and you love it, the next time it wasn't great. I've had these conversations with my employees, and I'll say, one night, we're knocking it out of the park, packed, right? The next night, it's like every one of them, it's their first day on the job. And it was the hardest thing to deal with. What percentage of restaurants that you visit, say specifically for Grand Strand Magazine, that you're not crazy about, percentage-wise?
Well, again, and I'm not just saying this to, cover my butt, but the vast majority have been good to excellent.
That's great.
I have rarely run into something that I thought was subpar, I've never had an issue where I had to say, look, this was just so bad. We got to pull the plug on it. We can't do it. I got to find another place. Yeah. That's never happened.
And that says a lot about the community, the restaurant community. That's a great thing, especially coming from somebody like you who practically lives this.
Well, what I've seen in the 25 years that I've lived here, it's changed so dramatically.
You have to stop answering the questions before
you ask them.
That's the very next one. Was how have you seen it change over the last couple of decades?
It's a ESPN we got going on. It's our ESPN. It migrated up from Charleston, and that's not just my own theory, but you're aware that Charleston is a foodie mecca.
Yep.
Internationally known.
Yep.
And for good reason. Shrimp and grits didn't exist before Charleston put it on the menu, and it kind of spread to the rest of the world. But because Charleston is so close, and because Charleston has had so many great restaurants and such a great reputation, I think that the restaurateurs here along the Grand Strand who visited there thought, we need to be shooting for that.
Right.
Now, there's always going to be the family-oriented, buffet, and it's just, those aren't my favorites, and I'm sure they're not yours either, because you're feeding millions of people. We get 20 million tourists here a year.
Every year, yeah.
And they can't all go to the nice little bistro that seats 75 people. Sometimes they have to go to the 300-seat buffet. They love it too, by the way. They rate those restaurants really highly. And some are better than others, but it always made me curious that the number one seafood item here on the coast of South Carolina is Alaskan crab legs.
Yeah.
Even though fresh fish is available, it really is. But and I love crab legs too, so I'm not knocking crab legs, but it's like somebody visits from Ohio or Indiana or some landlocked state, and it's all about the crab legs, and they forget the mahi and the grouper and the shrimp, which come in by the boatloads every day.
And what cracks me up often is I'll go to one of the local restaurants, and on the specials it'll have fresh salmon.
Yeah.
Like, from what river did that come from? I think it's just you can get a salmon within 500 miles of here.
Now, some places, I think if it's never frozen, if it's only refrigerated and it's caught within a few days or harvested, because most of it's farm raised, but if it's never frozen, I think you can call it fresh.
It's amazing how they create these
loopholes.
Yeah. I remember in Los Angeles, I used to shop for seafood at this place called Santa Monica Seafood, and it's just the best I've ever seen. And they had fish from all over the world. Mm-hmm. But I often use, and I'm a fisherman, right? So I know fish. Mm-hmm. And what's prevalent there in that part of the country is halibut. And I would see in the off season, I would see fresh local halibut. And I said to the manager one time, what does local mean? And he said, anywhere from San Francisco to San Diego. I mean, that's like a 5 or 6 hour drive away.
I was fortunate enough to have fished in the halibut capital of the world.
Alaska?
Yeah, Homer.
Wow.
And my buddies, his uncle owned a fishing charter and his parents owned a bed and breakfast. So we stayed for free and we got free fishing. And first, we went salmon fishing, and we were eating salmon that we caught in the rivers around Homer within 45 minutes of having caught it. And it's amazing. And then the heads are put on these giant treble hooks, and the next day we dragged for halibut, and we got more than we could ever want, and ended up freezing it and putting it on dry ice and shipping it home to us. So it arrived within a day or two of our flight.
You're killing me.
But it's amazing, and it really is better. But yeah, we all love it.
What would you like to see change here?
I like an intimate dining experience, and there are a handful of restaurants that do really well at that.
Name some of them.
Okay, Aspen Grill, 21 Main, still the best steak I've ever had. And I love both of those places. I love atmosphere, but sometimes I like rowdy and fun and wide open too. And you may or may not know, I'm also a musician.
Yes, I do.
And I play in a lot of places that have live music while you're eating your hamburger. Yeah. Live rock and roll 6 feet away from the guy who's trying to eat his salmon. Yeah. Which I've never fully understood that, because when I go to a restaurant and I see a band or a musician, I'm not offended by it. Of course, that's my livelihood. But I often ask to be seated as far away from the live music as humanly possible. But that's me. And I'm not the only, but there are many, many people who like that combination of eating and rock and roll at the same time. And
it's not me either.
It's not me either. And that's my business. It's crazy.
I love live music and I love eating even more.
But the two should be
not at the same time.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way.
Favorite pizza in the area?
Ooh, Vincenzo's, which is about 76th Avenue North.
Yeah, I know it
is quite good.
I've been trying to comment on a pizzeria every week.
Okay,
I'm going to do it for a year.
I want to mention another one.
Yeah, definitely. And then at the end of the year, I want to choose my one or two favorites. I have had Vincenzo's. I like that.
Yeah, Crave, also quite good.
I just heard about their pizza.
And they're in a new location, also not far from Vincenzo's, and they've been killing it since they moved. They've been around for a while, and they've opened a couple of other restaurants too, so they're not alone. But they have legit Italian built pizza ovens that come in pieces and have to have special people flown in from Italy to assemble them.
Yeah.
Whatever. Right. It makes a difference, but Yeah, I've had good pizza here, and I'm from New York, and supposedly, the Northeast has the best pizza. They claim it's the water. There's all kinds of theories as to why people say New York pizza, but of course, Chicago pizza will tell you their pizza is the best too.
Yeah, I had Chef Jeff Blount on a couple weeks ago. He's the owner, pastry chef of Levay Bakery, and he and I both share the same opinion that water has almost nothing to do with it. My restaurant in Los Angeles was Flame Pizzeria. It was an authentic, upscale, wood-fired pizzeria. It had one of those ovens, and I never had a problem.
I would think, though, wouldn't you, if you had nasty water? I mean, maybe if it's not filtered, you're using municipal tap water, that it wouldn't be as good if it's particularly hard or particularly chlorinated. That I would think that has to make some difference.
I don't doubt that it makes some difference, but I don't think as much as people
Probably
think. Not. The traditionalists in New York, they've been using tap water, and that works.
But New York's tap water is world famous for being fantastic. It comes out of the Catskill Mountains. It's good water.
Favorite burger?
Ooh,
you can't possibly have one answer for any one of these.
Well, Berkey's.
I don't know this.
It burned, and they're rebuilding it, and it's in Myrtle Beach, and it was a smash burger before smash burgers were a thing. It's a thin, crispy burger, and 2 or 3 of them layered together are quite good. Now, I'm probably going to get in a lot of trouble because most of these places that I perform at have fantastic hamburgers, and I'm not mentioning them, and I really should because I do eat at these places more probably than I eat anywhere else.
Let me ask you something. I'll go off topic just for a second, not off the food topic. I think it was my first episode. The blues guitarist Kenny Wayne Shepherd,
Of course,
very, very good friend of mine, and we were talking about food on the road. Because he does these very long bus, tours. And I asked him, I said, how do you find, because he's a foodie himself, how do you find decent food? And he said, well, after a while, he keeps a log and, everybody would get excited when they're pulling into this city because it's got great pizza. Do you ever think that way? Oh, we're going to be performing at such and such. They've got great burgers or whatever.
Yeah. This afternoon, I'm headed to the Dead Dog Saloon.
Yeah.
And my favorite meal there isn't necessarily a burger, although their burgers are excellent. They have a thing called a boo-boo bite, which is a small tenderloin with some balsamic on it, a little Asiago cheese, a garlic aioli on a French bread toast round.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, and it may be their best-selling item.
No kidding.
It comes in a hoagie. It comes as an appetizer, and it's just the perfect combination of flavors, and that's one of the things I look forward to. I don't eat them all the time when I'm there, but that's a go-to at the Dead Dog.
That'll definitely. We go there often. That was the first, and I think it's still my favorite shrimp and grits that I've had.
Excellent.
On the Grand Strand. One more fine dining experience. You mentioned some before. Aspen Grill, 21 Main.
Yeah.
Any others you like?
Yeah, well, fine dining is funny in Myrtle Beach because fine dining means shorts and a T-shirt, but that's the nature of the business. Greg Norman's has always been pretty consistently good, in my opinion, for fine dining. Hook and Barrel, also excellent.
I like them.
Yeah, very much. In fact, the owner has been the South Carolina Restaurateur of the Year.
Heidi or something or other.
Mm-hmm. Heidi Vukov, yeah. And she's also opened one of my favorite breakfast spots, Croissants, which predates Hook and Barrel even.
Yeah.
And they share the same building now. But other fine dining, I mean, New York Prime is one of the best known fine dining restaurants on the beach, and they've been here a long time, longer than I have, maybe 30 plus years. And that's one of the places I always recommend for an excellent steak. They do a great job.
New York Prime. Are there restaurants that come up that, I mean, I don't know how it works at the magazine, but are there restaurants that come up that you get very excited, you want to do the review and you can't get to it just yet, and because the editor maybe wants something before that? How does that work?
That is not normally a big issue. And we only come out every 2 months, so it's not like, the the most, and I don't do every restaurant review either. So we only do 6 issues a year. I may do 3 or 4 of the 6.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like I'm reviewing a restaurant, every week.
Right.
I wish I was.
Yeah.
But I do get excited about new places.
Yeah.
And they're always fun. It's always a fun experience.
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword doing this radio podcast.
What's that?
I love talking about food, but it makes me so flippin' hungry, especially when I have guests on like you that really know the area and you can tell me things. I was saying to you before, I think off air, that I've been here 4.5 years, which sounds like a long time, but I still feel like a newbie.
I missed another great pizza place, South End Bistro. It's in Pawleys Island.
Is that new?
No, it's not new. And Rustic Table is so good. There are so many really good restaurants. Frank's and Frank's Outback, another fine dining place that
you like
everybody loves.
Perrone's?
Oh, I love Perrone's.
I love Perrone's. I've been trying to get Chef Stephen Perrone on the show, and also Adam Kirby to come on, and they haven't been answering my calls.
The one in not Pawleys Island, but where the hammock shops are, local. Eat.
I've been there.
Yeah, also very good.
Yeah, I like that.
A well-known chef, been in the area a long time.
Yeah. Well, Paul Grimshaw, I know you have to get running. I so much thank you for coming and joining us on Talking About Food. Make sure you read his articles in the Grand Strand Magazine and certainly follow him around the Grand Strand and the Paul Grimshaw Band. Where are you playing next?
In about an hour and a half, I'll be at the Dead Dog Saloon. Of course, I don't know when this will air.
Yeah, this will air Friday.
We're there mostly on Wednesdays.
Wednesdays?
Yeah.
Okay.
We miss very few Wednesdays.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. Thanks for spending the time with us. And coming up after the break, we've got the Content Food Critic swinging by. Tell us about a new restaurant, 9 Spices Hot Pot and Barbecue, which just sounds amazing to me. She's also going to be discussing an event that she attended that was put on by the Tasting Room on 9th, and it was done at Microleden Farms in Conaway. Collaboration effort there. Can't wait to hear about that. Stick around. And welcome back to Talking About Food. My favorite subject, food. I can talk about food all day long. Sometimes I do. One of the cool things I like about doing this show is that for a number of the guests that have been on the show, it's an open door. They can text me and say, hey, I'm in the neighborhood, just tried this place. I've got this great little community now of influencers and critics and just downright people who love food and go to restaurants a lot. So I don't have to spend a fortune going to 15 different restaurants. I can go to 2 or 3 and talk about them and then have my friends and followers come in and they can talk about it themselves. But one of my favorite guests that I've had on the show a number of times, she just let me know she was in the area. And I said, hey, let's record it. Her name is Sophia Edens. She owns the Content Food Critic website. Sophia, welcome back to Talking About Food.
I love being here.
Well, I love having you here. So tell the listeners, you were pretty jazzed about this place.
Yeah, just yesterday I had lunch in downtown Myrtle Beach. I kind of just was driving and I saw this restaurant that I'd heard a little bit about. I know Amy went when Amy, Myrtle Beach Foodie Babe.
Yeah.
Yes. She went during their grand opening and absolutely loved it with her family. So I just decided to pop in for lunch. It's called 9 Spices Hot Pot and Barbecue.
Now, what does that mean? Hot pot and barbecue for the listeners.
So depending on the culture, it has a variety of different meanings. Essentially, it is a communal gathering type meal where you sit down with hot soup or the Korean barbecue table side grill. But it varies depending on cultures. So Chinese, Vietnamese, Thai, it varies.
So
Korean.
the grilling part of it, that's done by the guest, not
yes.
Yeah.
The grilling and the soup aspect. They bring out the broth and put it on a hot plate in a giant metal bowl, and they'll refill the soup and the broth for you. And it's so nice. It's so enjoyable. It's such a lively experience to have with friends and family.
And what about the actual food? Is it like a buffet?
Yes. And I was nervous at first because I do not typically choose buffets. However, this one was impeccably designed.
Yeah.
It's 3 large sections. You've got areas for the hot pot station. So you've got your thinly sliced meats that are kind of rolled up, and it's really cool because they're in a freezer, but when they get put in the broth, it immediately cooks, and
because
it's really cool.
It's basically shaved.
Yes.
So just for the listeners, so the hot pot version of the restaurant, they bring a pot of steaming broth, probably chicken broth, I'm assuming.
I had the spicy. I can't remember.
Oh, you
if it
can
was,
choose the
yes,
broth?
there's
I
like
love it.
a variety of different broths you can choose from. And mine was flavored with Thai chilies or bird's eye chilies. Oh, it was
Very
amazing. I loved it.
Yeah.
My mouth was on fire the whole day.
So you selected the bird's eye chili broth. They set it on your table on the hot pot, and then you go up to the buffet and you choose your meats. What else?
Vegetables. I think I can't remember. Is it enoki? It's a type of mushroom. They're long stem.
Skinny enoki.
They're skinny.
Yeah.
Really delicious mushroom.
Great.
I had bok choy. I got udon noodles because those are my favorite.
Yeah.
And I got some fresh shrimp. I got fresh beef. I mean, it was just so amazing to experience this. And it's unlimited. You can go up to the buffet as many times as you want for ingredients.
You know what, Sophia? You're telling the wrong guy about that, I'll tell you. Anyway, so you gathered up the meats and the vegetables. You bring them back to your table and you place them into the broth. So
there is, again, a cultural difference with how hot pot is usually handled. Knowing that the restaurant owner is Chinese, I kind of wanted to take that style of approach. I was going to go for the Korean style. That's usually you put all of the ingredients in the hot bowl and you let it marinate. However, in the Chinese culture, it's a little bit different, and you take it ingredient by ingredient because every ingredient you add changes the broth. Yeah. And it's so amazing. So I started off with my veggies and let those kind of simmer. And you can change the temperature on this. It's so amazing. And then I added my meats. And then after I added my meats, especially because I had shrimp, I knew the seafood would kind of change the overall flavor. I waited until the last minute to do that. And then finally at the end, I did the starch. So I did the udon noodle next because I didn't want the broth to change too much. Yeah. Also could have overcooked the noodles. Yes. And then, I mean, if you think about it, if you had done that first, then you're full. It's so true. From the carbohydrate in there. But then there's moments where, you cook the meat in the hot pot and then you take it out and then you dip it in this sauce. So they not only have your buffet where you can choose your meats and your veggies and your starches, they also have a customizable sauce section and recipes to help you and kind of guide you through this step-by-step process. Do you want a spicy sauce? Do you want a sweet sauce? Do you want an umami sauce? It's so customizable. It's so neat. That is fabulous. That's wonderful. I've been to a number of them, not here. It was in Los Angeles, but I've never experienced something like that where they have, recipes right there in front of you to put them together. Okay, what else? They have a private party room. Mm-hmm. And I was telling this story to my boyfriend. He grew up in Seoul, Korea, army family. And he kind of told me stories about these places that he would travel to, and especially the restaurant scene in Korea. And I've kind of always tried to strive to experience this, especially here in Myrtle. And now that we're finally having restaurants pop up, they have a private room with karaoke and then I think a 8 to 10 seat table where you can do the hot pot and the Korean barbecue. And it's just so cool. Now, is there any grilling involved in this restaurant? Yes. So are you talking behind the scenes? Like no, like you have this hot pot, but I've been to a number of different Korean restaurants where they have the grill right on the table. Yes. They have the grill right on the table and then 4 sections depending on what kind of size table that you choose to sit
Yeah.
at. They have 4 hot pot plates and then the grill in the middle.
So wherever you do sit, you will have the option, or you can use both the grill and the
Yes.
hot pot.
The only thing that they specified, just because of pricing matter, is that the table has to all agree. So if some part of the table wants
Makes
only
sense.
hot pot
Yeah.
and some,
Yeah.
So,
So
they just,
did you use both that
Yes.
night? Yeah. So
Oh,
how
it
did you
was
grill?
so
What did you
cool.
grill?
I fell in love with the pork belly and the beef short rib.
Oh, man, you're killing me.
It was amazing.
You're killing me.
I
Oh,
can't wait
my
to go
God.
back. However, they marinated that beef short rib was truly impeccable. I think I picked up the spicy one.
Yeah.
I was on a spice kick that day.
Yeah. Wow.
And I
Sounds
even took the broth home. So for a little extra charge,
Yeah.
you get to take your broth home.
Yeah.
And oh my God.
Do you remember what the cost was?
I believe roughly between 20 to 30. And then with tip, maybe around 50 to 60.
Per person?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is still very affordable. And I believe there's like a 2-hour limit, depending on how busy they are, I
Yeah.
assume. Just because it is a buffet style.
Right.
They let me have as many drinks from their cooler as I wanted while I was seated. They let me go up to the buffet as many times as I wanted to get ingredients.
Do they serve alcohol?
Yes.
Yeah.
Beer, wine, I believe soju. I'm not sure about sake, but
Yeah.
I do know they had soju on the menu. And then they also offer tapioca tea, milk teas, matcha.
Before we say the name and address again, I just want to remind the listeners that Sophia has a standard when reviewing restaurants. And explain again, Sophia, what your standard is. It's very impressive. It's expensive and impressive.
I absolutely love to visit restaurants more than 3 times, various times of the day, and even bringing along various people. It's a strategy that I've been doing since the beginning of my blog, and I don't think I'll ever change. So, yeah.
What do you mean you bring along other people?
I either do a date night with my boyfriend, I'll do a girls' night out, I'll go by myself.
So those would be the 3 different visits.
Yes.
Yeah. And what's the purpose of bringing other people?
Just to see the difference in the way the restaurant staff
Yeah.
is treating me.
That's 9 Spices. It's a hot pot and barbecue place. Is it fairly new?
I believe less than a year old.
Oh, that's new. Even though you've only been there once and
Yes.
you plan to go back 2 to 3 more times, you would suggest people to go there.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
I am going to give it some thought before I give my final review on
Right.
this one, but absolutely just try it out.
Okay, Miss Edens, before we go any further, I want to ask you something. I read your review on the tasting menu series, the latest one that you attended. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about it? Explanation of what that particular event was all about.
That is a monthly dinner provided by the Tasting Room on 9th. They schedule these dinners. Tickets are bought in advance. And this evening in particular was off premises.
Off-site,
yes.
right. Oh, the others were there.
The others were there.
Yeah.
And this was their first dinner at a farm.
Wow.
And
And which I have to go back to your opening in the article. It's just so brilliant. And it says you can't get any more farm to table than eating at a table on a farm. That is just so cool.
I am very aware of my surroundings when I write my reviews, and that is something somebody said while they were at the table. And I'm always listening, always looking, and always paying attention to what people are saying and how they're feeling.
Yeah. So this was put on by the Tasting Room, and the 2 hosts were the chef and the sommelier, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And I just want to keep taking excerpts from your article because it's just so great. You said the scene was stunning. Lisa, who is the sommelier, Lisa's experience as a wedding photographer was evident in every thoughtful detail, from the candlelit ambiance to the floral arrangements, sourced just down the road.
It puts you at the scene.
Not just the writing, which is absolutely gorgeous, but you just get this sense of how beautiful it was and what they put into it. What did they serve for the first course? I frankly, I do know what they serve. And I have to be honest, I cringed for a second. My first thought was, if I see another charcuterie board served somewhere, I'm going to scream. But from the way you explained it, this is different.
It was amazing. And pairing with the Riesling was so incredible. It was light on the tongue. It wasn't too messy, too salty. We did eat it with our fingers, so that was a nice change of pace. Usually at their dinners, they're conducted very fine dining, so of course they're set up that way. So it was nice to kind of get something different.
Okay, what was the second course?
We had a beautiful farm fresh green salad with their signature bib lettuce.
And this comes from the
farm.
Where
Oh
you
my God.
where you were dining. That
It
is
was
so cool.
absolutely amazing. And it was so cool to see something that I actually shop and buy, being plated and presented in this beautiful way.
A few feet away from where it was harvested.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it had a beautiful, the buttermilk ranch was very light. It wasn't that heavy of a ranch. It was very light. And it was seasoned with tarragon and dill. And that was so fragrant and just really delicious.
Well, what did they pair that with?
I believe it was a Chapelle de Blogny. It was a white wine.
Okay. All right. Great. Third course.
That was a beautiful cod with a miso honey ginger sauce. That one blew me away. The cod was so flaky. The sauce was absolutely immaculate. I really hope to recreate that at some point in my life because that was a beautiful, beautiful dish. And then it also had crispy kale.
Did that come from them as well?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. It was amazing.
And what wine did Lisa serve with that one?
She paired it with a very bold red.
Oh, okay. Wow. Man, you're making me hungry already. Okay. Next course.
The next one was pork chop and I believe some roasted apples.
Now, that seems very traditional. Was that the reason why he chose that?
Yes. He said it was a childhood dish that he grew up having, which was pork chop and applesauce. And I definitely resonated with that because my mom used to do pork chops and apple butter.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool. And what else was served with that?
They ended up topping it with their beautiful microgreens. We had garnet mustard and broccoli. It just brought this fresh and complex. It just was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And I love having their microgreens because not only does it add a beautiful arrangement to look at before you eat, but it adds amazing flavor.
And I can tell the chef put a lot of thought into that because here he has this sort of heavier piece of meat and just lightens it up with all those farm fresh greens around. What was the pairing for that?
That was another dry red.
Okay. And then I think, if I remember correctly, you moved on to the dessert from there.
Oh, that was probably my favorite. It was a beautiful angel food cake with strawberries that were macerated and infused with local raw honey, basil, and sugar. And it just, the basil paired so amazingly with the strawberries. I never would have imagined that.
And I think, if I remember correctly, that the chef stuck to the childhood thing with good humor, strawberry shortcake kind of flavor.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, another one that really hit really memorable for me. My family.
He elevated it quite a bit. Was there a wine that they served with that dessert course?
Yes, that was a sparkling rosé.
Wow, this is so cool. Off premises, on a farm. Does it get any better than that? Does it get any more farm to table or table to farm than that? Okay. How much was this per person?
I'll be honest, I was hosted, so I did not have to pay for my experience. However, those who did purchase tickets were $200 a piece.
I can't, in good conscience, ask you, was it worth it to you because you didn't pay?
Of course.
But did you sit with a group of people? Or
yes.
Okay. Did you get a consensus on the table how they felt? Was $200 worth their experience?
I think the clientele that the tasting room is reaching the ones that find this extremely worth it. They are craving an experience like this and they will pay anything to attend.
All of the people at the table, they didn't bat an eye
None
at
of
the
them
cost.
batted an eye.
That says a lot about the event. That is the tasting room on 9th, their off-site tasting menu series that took place at Microleden Farm in Conaway. You got to check out the tasting room and follow my dear friend Sophia Edens of the Content Food Critic. You know, you and I have had a tug of war on your approach to restaurants, and I vacillate between agreeing with you and disagreeing with you. But I had this thought, for any restaurant that has you come in to do a review, I mean, they've got to so respect that. You know, you're giving them 3 shots to do it.
I hope they respect it.
Boy, I if they don't, they need to put their big boy pants on. So anyway, that's Sophia Edens. She is the owner of the Content Food Critic website and Facebook page. Follow her, folks. You have to. She's one of the best out there. Sophia, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. And
that's just about going to wrap it up for today. Make sure you read Paul Grimshaw's food reviews in Grand Strand Magazine. He's good. He's good at what he does. And it's a great magazine. I love that magazine. And man, we talked about a lot of restaurants. And if anybody knows restaurants, it's Paul Grimshaw. We talked about, as far as pizza goes, South End Bistro in Pawleys Island, Crave Pizza, both in Myrtle Beach. He also loves Greg Norman's for steak, Aspen Grill, we talked about. Fine dining, Croissants, another great spot, and another great fine dining restaurant, New York Prime. So those are a lot of restaurants to check out. And also don't forget what Sophia Edens of the Content Food Critic talked about, 9 Spices, Hot Pot, and Barbecue. And also, you guys got to check out the tasting room on 9th, especially their chef-curated menu series. It's a good place, folks. Anyway, hope you folks enjoyed. We'll be back next week, next Friday. Another podcast will drop. I've got some interesting guests in the works. I'm trying to get Peter Gerace back on. If you remember, he owns the Inlet Culinary Garden, but he also harvests soft shell crab for the restaurants in the community, and it is that season. But always remember, folks, you are your family's private chef. Thanks for listening.